Hello and welcome to the ISC West Media Studio. I'm Whit Richardson, Managing Editor of Security Director News, and I'm joined today by Mike Howard, who is the Chief Security Officer of Microsoft. Thank you very much for joining me, Mike.
Glad to be here.
I think today we're going to talk a little bit about the security profession and the progression to having C-suite, security professionals in the C-suite. So you're CSO. You've been CSO for the past 3 years, I think you told me.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit about your role and responsibilities at Microsoft and how that progression occurred.
Sure. So as CSO, I'm responsible for all the physical security at Microsoft, my team and I. And that encompasses everything from crisis management to kidnapping and ransom, thefts, threats of violence, terrorism. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot of evacuating of employees in different crisis situations. So the whole soup to nuts of physical security. I've actually been with the company close to 10 years. I got the CSO title about 3 years ago, and I think a lot of that was based on the strategies that we've employed in the last few years at Microsoft in our organization to really show that true value to the C-suite as to what we bring. Certainly life safety is always going to be job one, but we've also been able to show that the return on investment back to the company through some strategies we've been able to employ, that we actually bring dollars back into the company. And so based on that and the whole sort of looking at business acumen, the position was upgraded to Chief Security Officer.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about how you demonstrated that value. I'm sure it would be helpful to other security managers, security directors out there who are, would like to do the same thing.
Sure. And that is a common sort of dilemma among a lot of folks in my profession. So what we did was over the last 6 years, we've developed 3 global security operations centers. And these are our, response and monitoring hubs, utilizing, our technology and partner products. And they practice true interoperability, and it really enabled us to really expand our footprint and respond, effectively around the world. But what we realized was that we were able to demonstrate through these GSOCs how we can work efficiently and effectively in a business mode. Mm-hmm. So basically approaching our sales organization, we said if you have clients that are going to be getting some enterprise agreements or new customers, bring them through our GSOCs. Let us do a demonstration of not just our capabilities, but how we leverage our technologies to make people more efficient. And that if they sign on the dotted line, would you at least give us credit for helping to make that sale? And that in itself turned into its own vertical. So now I have a whole team that does nothing but the showcasing piece, and we've been credited with helping the company bring back a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just security organizations that are coming to see our showcasing. We've got CIOs, we've got government organizations and businesses. And so from that, we get several advantages, right? Number one, obviously, we feel like we're giving back to the company above and beyond what our primary duties are. But I think number two is it makes us smarter in our organization as we have relationships with sales and marketing and research as they're bringing in customers. We get a little more better in terms of our knowledge of Microsoft's overall strategy. That makes us better business enablers to the C-suite. Mm-hmm. And I think that has helped us a lot in terms of our credibility and where we stand within that whole C-suite infrastructure.
Yeah. So when you were given that CSO title, do you feel that you also, there was a change in relationship between you and the other C-suite members? I mean, do you feel like a true member of that team? Are you at that decision-making table early and part of, big, kind of global company-wide decisions?
I think it was a natural progression. Yeah. So I don't think it was a huge paradigm shift at the time. Okay. I think that we had laid the groundwork, hopefully strategically, in the last several years, so that when the title was given to me, it was because there was an acceptance already within the C-suite, right? That we could talk business to them, and that in terms of making decisions, whether it's the COO or their CFO or VP of HR, that we would get looped in on decisions where we needed to be. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was more of a validation. The relationship continues. A big part of my job, obviously, as well as my peers in the industry, is to make sure we have those inroads with the C-suite. So I do a lot of evangelizing of what we do to them. I invite them to the GSOCs. I make sure I have regular meetings with them. And that way, over a period of time, perception of security from, guns, guards, and gates to the true business enabler that's something that I think within the industry we're all trying to push.
Right. And I think it does take some of that evangelizing, to really demonstrate that value and kind of be proactive about being part of that discussion, the conversation.
Right.
All right. Some other trends we talked about, earlier was social media.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an interesting issue. I think a lot of probably security professionals are not not too keen or don't know how quite to approach it.
Sure.
What's been your experience?
We made a concerted effort strategically to make social media a big part of our strategy in the next few years. And part of it was driven by demographics. If you look at, say, the demographics of Microsoft, we've always been a relatively young company, and folks in that demographic, sort of 35 and below, they're not really utilizing email the way a lot of us do. They're utilizing Facebook and Twitter and other ways of social media to communicate. Mm-hmm. And we've also looked at some case studies where at universities in emergency situations, social media has been leveraged, right, to get content and information out to students and whatever.
Right.
So we're looking at social media in two ways. Number one, from a branding and evangelizing perspective. Who do we want to be internally and externally, and how can we leverage either Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media we determine we're going to use to get that sort of that who we are out. The second part is tied into our primary duty of life safety is, when the balloon goes up and something bad happens, besides the array of tools we have through the GSOC and everything else to get content out, how do we then leverage social media? Again, to get information out to people who need it. Mm-hmm. And then how do we also gather intelligence back from those people as to what's happening? A prime example was in Chile, the Chile earthquake a few years ago.
Yeah.
When I read an article, and this is probably what got me started, I read an article where there were so many devastated neighborhoods, but people were tweeting the condition of certain neighborhoods before any of the news media could get there, CNN and et cetera. And I thought, that's pretty powerful, mm-hmm. That kind of information. So how do you rope that in the security ecosystem? It's a challenge, but that's something we're looking at.
Yeah. So is it still too early to kind of prove anything or show any results, or is it? Where are you in the process?
We are on the cusp. In fact, I was just talking to one of my senior directors this morning. We're on the cusp of delivering our own Twitter and Facebook page, probably within the next 30 days or so.
Okay.
And I'm pretty heavily involved in Twitter in terms of I've been working with it and tweeting about these events and about different things that are happening, both business-wise, leadership-wise, as well as in the industry. Mm-hmm. And so it's an interesting journey so far.
I agree. Very interesting. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Pleasure.
All right, take care. Thanks.
Thank you.